I'm Tom Mitzi, Theaters Director for the City of Thousand Oaks, and today my guest is Dot Engel for the Thousand Oaks Living History Interviews. Dot, welcome.
Thank you.
Dot, when did you come to the Conejo Valley,
About 24 years ago.
and what brought you here?
My husband's job. He began working for a company that was located on the far end of the San Fernando Valley. We had lived in Thousand Oaks, or rather in Woodland Hills, for a number of years, and decided that we would move farther west.
What are your earliest memories of the Conejo Valley?
Earliest memories, building a house.
Oh, that's quite a project.
Yeah, it was a brand new house, and we had a lot of work to do on it once it was built, doing the landscaping and raising children. We have 3 children that were still in school, so I was a very busy woman. Then I was trying to transfer all of the responsibilities that I had taken with me for a couple of organizations and traveling back and forth into Los Angeles to do that. So I was busy.
How did Thousand Oaks differ from where you lived in Woodland Hills?
Friendlier, got closer to people on a day-to-day basis, and a quieter life, let me put it that way. I discovered that it was easier living outside of a large city. I liked it a lot.
How has Thousand Oaks changed since you came here?
It's grown considerably. I think the growth has been the biggest change that I've seen. And of course, there have been changes in the city council membership and the people in leadership positions, and in the growth of the county as a whole, because I worked so long with the League of Women Voters that a lot of my activities take me outside of the city, and I can compare with the other cities. And I'm very pleased that we've chose Thousand Oaks as opposed to any of the other cities in the county to live in, because I think we've done a better job when it comes to providing the right facilities for people who want to live here.
How has Thousand Oaks remained the same since you've been here?
How has it remained the same? I have the same neighbors that I had when I moved here, with the exception of maybe 2. We have a neighborhood that seems to be pretty stable. And the people that I met and have been working with in different organizations have remained pretty much the same. People seem to stick with what they choose to do, and I sort of like that.
If you were to describe Thousand Oaks and the Conejo Valley to someone from the East Coast who'd never been here, what would you tell them?
From the East Coast, you're talking about New York City?
New York or the Midwest, someone who'd never been to Southern California.
How would I describe it? Well, I have described it. It's a quieter type of life, certainly from living in New York City or even in the state of New York. I came from Illinois, and I lived in a large city there. I lived in Chicago. And comparing it with where I lived before, I got to know people better, closer, in Thousand Oaks than I had ever known anybody before, except in my workplace. But I wasn't working when I came out here at first, so I think I got acquainted with my neighbors faster, let me put it that way. And I began attending city council meetings, something I'd never done when I lived in Chicago or even in Los Angeles, so that I felt that I was closer to my elected officials, and this was different for me.
Do you have one single memorable experience that you reflect on in living here?
You mean since I moved here?
Mm-hmm.
One single memorable experience. The first thing that occurs to me would be working with a bunch of people to help put on a city council candidate for him. When I first came here, I had never done anything like that, and this was an eye-opener for me. There were a number of people running for city council, and I got to meet them all, got to draft the questions that were going to be asked of these potential elected officials, and figure out how we could best put on a forum so that the voters could decide who they wanted to vote for. So it was a learning experience for me.
If you had the power to do so, what would you change about Thousand Oaks?
What would I change? Well, that's a hard one for me. I'm not sure I'm ready to answer a question like that yet.
How about what is your greatest personal achievement or accomplishment since moving to Thousand Oaks?
One thing that occurs to me that I had never expected to do when I came out into Ventura County at all was to help in forming a commission for women on the county level. I was one of the founding members, and I served as its chairman a couple of times over a period of about 10 years. And this group of women tried very hard to bring about changes for women as a whole in leadership and in other capacities. So I consider that a pretty good achievement.
Mm-hmm. What are your hopes for the future of Thousand Oaks and the Canal Valley?
Hopes for the future. I'd like to keep the city as friendly and good-looking as it is. I'd like to continue to have some way of affecting its leadership and electing people who represent the people who live here. And I'd like to keep the city looking good.
In your opinion, what's the greatest challenge that we face here in Thousand Oaks?
Well, I guess I'm thinking always in terms of government, because I work so closely with the League of Women Voters. I would hope that we could continue to have a receptive city council, and that we continue to elect good people to the city council. That's the biggest worry I've had over a number of years.
Is there one person who stands out as, in your opinion, as the person who's had the greatest impact or influence in Thousand Oaks?
Yes. In my estimation, I think Frank Schellow's had a lot to do with the way things have gone in Thousand Oaks. And I've worked quite closely with him on several occasions. And Marion Schillow is another person who has done a lot and is usually quite soft-spoken about it. Someone that you don't think of a whole lot as being active, and yet she is.
Who are your heroes?
My heroes?
Who do you admire?
You mean on a national scale?
A national or personal?
My husband.
It's a very good answer.
Yeah, he's done so much, I think, to make our family what it is. And I'm very proud of our children as a result.
How would you like people to remember you in Thousand Oaks? The history, how would you like to be perceived?
Remembered? Well, as somebody who got things done when she said she'd do them.
And what question haven't we asked you? Is there anything you'd like to talk about that just occurs to you, that comments about your life here in Thousand Oaks or the Canal Valley?
I wish I'd had that question ahead of time. I could have thought about it a little bit more. I've tried very hard to be a productive citizen, let me put it that way. And in doing that, while I was first new to the area, I almost went overboard in trying to join up with a lot of organizations that I thought were doing a good job, and almost overdid it. I've learned my lesson over the years that I need to concentrate on maybe 2 or 3. So currently what I'm concentrating on is Child Development Resources, which is located in Oxnard, but which has child care facilities all over the county. And of course they have been assisting in the welfare program called CalWorks. So having that child care available all over the county has been one of my main interests, and I think we should continue to provide these services for usually single women with children, women who are unable, to support their children without a job. And of course the other is the League of Women Voters. And this is a county organization, so we have a unit in Thousand Oaks, and I've been having meetings in my own home for the members in this area, and we've gotten a lot of new members not too long ago. And what we try to do is we try to have guests come to our meeting to provide information on the subjects that we're interested in. And concentrating on those 2 organizations and a couple of others that I attend pretty regularly. One's the Garden Club, the Thousand Oaks Garden Club. Howard and I will be moving into a new home shortly in Newbury Park, and I'm getting the Garden Club members to help me with my landscaping.
That's great.
But in addition to that, my husband's an amateur photographer, and he's been taking a lot of photos around town, and has been displaying them in our home. He won't go overboard and show them anywhere else, unfortunately, and I think he should. I'm going to try and convince him that he should be showing his photos in a more organized fashion. Not that he wants to sell them. He doesn't want to give anything away, and he doesn't want any money for them. This is one of the things I think that bothers him. But being able to show his works to other people, I think, would be a great treat. So I've got all sorts of little things in mind now that I think about it.
Well, good. Well, Dot, thank you for being our guest today on Living
thank
History.
you for asking.
It's been enjoyable talking to you.
Thank you.